Have you ever wondered why some women seem to awaken an unshakable devotion in a man's heart, while others, equally beautiful, equally kind, watch interest fade like mist in the morning? Most believe commitment is won through effort, through doing more, giving more, proving more. Yet the deeper truth is stranger and far more powerful. A man's deepest loyalty ignites not when you chase, but when you embody energies that echo the timeless feminine archetypes alive in his unconscious. Carl Jung taught that these archetypes are ancient patterns in the collective psyche, forces that speak to instinct long before logic can interrupt. Today, more than ever, understanding these inner figures is the key to the bond that endures. Picture the first stirring of devotion as a silent recognition. A man encounters not just a woman, but a presence that calls to something half-remembered within him. His soul reaches toward the image of the eternal feminine, what Jung called the anima, seeking wholeness through her. It is not manipulation that awakens this response. It is resonance, the meeting of an inner pattern with a living embodiment. The feminine archetypes that stir this recognition are not costumes to wear, they are living forces waiting to be claimed. The lover emerges first, not as seduction but as vitality. She is the current of life itself, the fragrance of rain on warm stone, the warmth that reminds him of the world's beauty. She does not plead for attention, she radiates it. When you allow the lover to move through you, you awaken his memory of passion not just for you, but for existence itself. He feels alive in your presence because you have claimed the right to feel alive within your own skin. Yet the lover alone cannot hold commitment. The huntress must stride beside her, independent and untamed. She follows her own path through moonlit woods, purpose sharpened like an arrow. She is the embodiment of freedom, the reminder that love is a choice, never a cage. A man senses in her the thrilling paradox of invitation without need. To stand beside her he must rise to his fullest self, not because she demands it, but because her very being leaves no other option. And then, deeper still, the queen takes her place. She is serenity and authority, the sovereign of her own realm. Her presence rearranges the atmosphere, respect gathers around her like a natural law. She does not command it, she simply embodies it. Her gaze says, I welcome partnership, but my throne is self-possession. A man approaching the queen feels both challenge and sanctuary. With her, devotion is not duty but honor. These archetypes do not live in isolation. They weave together inside the woman who dares to embrace them all. The lover's warmth, the huntress's independence, the queen's sovereign calm, each one a note in a symphony that speaks directly to the masculine unconscious. When you stand in their harmony, you become the reflection of his own wholeness. He senses, without words, that to love you is to awaken himself. This is not performance. It is reclamation. It is the work of shadow and light, of facing the parts of yourself you were taught to quiet, of stepping into power without apology. The more you integrate these energies, the less you need to prove anything. Your presence itself becomes the catalyst for the commitment you once thought you had to chase. Feel the subtle electricity in this truth. Devotion is not earned by pursuit but by embodiment. When a man stands before, the second movement of this story begins in a place beyond ordinary attraction, where instinct and soul recognize one another before a single word is spoken. A man may not understand it consciously, yet he feels it, a magnetic pull toward the woman whose very presence embodies archetypal harmony. Jung described this as the activation of the anima within him, the inner feminine calling him to completeness. When you inhabit the lover, the huntress, and the queen, not as masks but as living truths, you awaken that ancient call, and his heart responds long before reason has a chance to interfere. The lover's energy flows first, a warm current that stirs his dormant passion for life itself. She is not merely sensual, she is vitality incarnate, the reminder that the world is rich, fragrant, and alive. Her laughter is a pulse of sunlight, her stillness the hush of dusk. When you allow her presence to emerge, you do not perform, you emanate. He feels more awake in your company, not because you give him excitement, but because your own joy and embodiment awaken his own. Desire becomes a celebration of existence rather than a grasping for possession. Beside her, the huntress moves with deliberate grace. She does not seek approval, nor does she hide her independence to soothe insecurity. She is the arrow and the path, the woman who follows her own calling whether or not anyone walks beside her. To him, this freedom is not distance but allure. It tells him that your love, should you choose to share it, will never be a cage. His masculine instinct, wired for challenge and reverence, feels the invitation to rise. Your self-contained strength ignites a devotion that cannot be won through effort, it must be met by equal wholeness. Then the queen steps forward, serene and commanding without a single demand. Her presence is the axis of your being, the calm center around which all else turns. In her gaze he senses both sanctuary and standard. She offers partnership, but never at the expense of her own throne. To be near her is to feel the weight of respect as a natural law. She does not have to insist on loyalty, her very existence evokes it. He knows, often without conscious thought, that to be in her presence is an honor, and that love with her is an act of mutual sovereignty. Together these archetypes create a field of power that speaks to his deepest instincts. He does not merely want you, he recognizes you. You become a mirror for the parts of himself he has yet to integrate. In your lover, he meets his own hunger for vitality. In your huntress, he sees the courage to follow a true path. In your queen, he glimpses the nobility of his own potential. What he feels as desire is in fact the awakening of his own inner landscape. This is why chasing or pleading for commitment can never equal the quiet gravity of embodiment. You do not convince a man into devotion, you summon it by being fully alive in these archetypes. Your very presence becomes the ritual that calls his unconscious into the open. He finds himself thinking of you when no words were exchanged, remembering the cadence of your voice, the weight of your silence. It is not spellcraft. It is psychology, soul, and the timeless magnetism of a woman who has made peace with every part of herself. Such power requires no rush. Each encounter becomes an unfolding. The third movement gathers like twilight after a long day, soft yet charged with anticipation, drawing him further into a recognition he cannot escape. By now he senses that you are not merely a woman of charm, but a living embodiment of forces older than history. Carl Jung called these forces archetypes, universal patterns of the psyche that speak to instinct before logic can form a single word. When you breathe life into the lover, the huntress, and the queen, you become the mirror of his own hidden wholeness, and his heart answers with a devotion that feels inevitable. The lover continues to weave her quiet spell, not by performance but by radiant being. She moves as though every gesture is a celebration of existence, the way light touches her skin, the unhurried confidence in her breath. In her company a man feels the world sharpen, colors brighter, air sweeter, the pulse of life louder. She does not demand attention, she simply inhabits the moment so completely that attention becomes unavoidable. His desire is less about possession and more about awakening, he longs to stay near the source of vitality she embodies. But the lover's glow would lose its depth without the steady independence of the huntress. She is the untamed pathfinder, the one whose heart beats to the rhythm of her own purpose. She does not disappear into another's narrative. Her days are filled with pursuits that ignite her spirit, work that matters, friendships that nourish, solitary rituals that keep her centered. To him this freedom is not threat but invitation. It whispers that love with her will never shrink him, it will call him to rise, to match her stride. The huntress does not chase, yet her presence challenges him to become the kind of man who can walk beside her without needing to capture her. The queen remains the still point of the turning world. She does not clamor for respect, she radiates it. Her calm sets the tone of every room, her silence carries the weight of sovereign authority. When she speaks, each word feels deliberate, as though chosen in council with something timeless. A man senses, almost at a cellular level, that love with her is not a pastime but a vow. To share her space is to enter a realm where honor is the only currency. He feels both humility and pride in the possibility of standing at her side. These three forces mingle until their edges blur. You are no longer alternating roles, you are an ecosystem of feminine power, shadow and light intertwined. This fusion is what awakens the deepest instinct for commitment. He does not feel tricked or coerced, he feels recognized. Through you he glimpses the forgotten feminine within himself, the anima that yearns for integration. His attraction is not merely to your body or your voice, it is to the wholeness you represent, a wholeness that calls forth his own. Notice how this dance requires neither haste nor calculation. Every conversation becomes a slow unveiling, every shared silence a revelation. You do not rush to declare your needs or to secure promises. Your restraint is not a strategy, it is a natural expression of inner abundance. He finds himself thinking of you in quiet moments, feeling a pull that defies explanation. What he calls love is the psyche's ancient recognition of a matching soul. This is the secret architecture of devotion, a rhythm that honors mystery, a magnetism born of integration. As you embody these archetypes more fully, you do not move toward him. The fourth movement unfolds like a hidden chamber opening within a cathedral, quiet yet immense, where echoes carry farther than sound. By now he senses that remaining near you is not simply pleasure but a journey toward his own completion. Jung spoke of the union of opposites, the marriage of conscious and unconscious, as the true path to wholeness. Without realizing it, he feels that path awaken through your presence. The lover, the huntress, and the queen are no longer separate energies circling around you, they have merged into a single field of gravity that holds him without a word. The lover's vitality courses through everything you do. She is the life force expressed in laughter that feels like sunlight through trees, in stillness that hums like a summer night. You need not speak of desire, your very existence radiates it. He does not crave to own this energy, he craves to live in its atmosphere, to feel the way the world sharpens when you are near. It is not a spell but a remembrance of life's deeper beauty, and it calls him to protect, to cherish, to stay. Beside her, the huntress walks with silent independence. She is the assurance that love will never cost you your freedom. She rises early to follow her own callings, creative work, friendships, inner quests, and in each step she claims the right to belong first to herself. To him this autonomy is a challenge and a relief. It tells him that his presence must be a choice of strength, never a refuge for weakness. Your independence summons the best in him because it refuses to settle for less. The queen presides over this union, a sovereign of stillness whose authority is felt more than heard. When you enter a room, the atmosphere shifts as if the air itself recognizes hierarchy. You do not command respect, you emanate it. A man drawn into your orbit senses both safety and responsibility. He knows that devotion here is not an agreement of convenience but a vow to match your dignity with his own. His admiration becomes a quiet pledge, a desire not just to love you but to be worthy of standing beside you. Together these archetypes form a living symbol of integration. You are not playing roles, you are revealing the fullness of what feminine energy has always been, sensual and sovereign, free and commanding, mysterious and clear. He cannot reduce you to a single story. Each moment reveals another layer, and each layer calls to something ancient in his blood. In this space, commitment ceases to be a decision of the mind and becomes an inevitability of the soul. He is not choosing you as one might choose a preference, he is recognizing you as a missing piece of his own pattern. Through you he meets the anima he has long sought, the inner feminine that promises his own completion. The pull toward you is not urgency but destiny. And you, standing in this luminous union, need no vow to confirm your worth. You do not hurry his realization, nor do you hold it hostage. Whether he speaks his devotion or simply breathes it, you remain whole. Your power lies not in possession but in presence, not in demands but in the silent invitation of a life fully claimed. This is the heart of archetypal magnetism. The woman who lives her wholeness becomes the catalyst for another's. He draws closer, not because you chase, but because in your quiet sovereignty he finds the reflection of his own highest self. The fifth movement unfolds like the deep hush of a forest just before dawn, where every leaf seems alive with quiet expectation. By now his fascination is no longer a simple attraction, it is a recognition that standing near you brings him closer to the forgotten pieces of his own soul. Jung described this as the sacred task of individuation, where a person integrates the hidden aspects of the psyche to become whole. Without realizing it, he senses that journey awakening in himself through the magnetic field of your being. The lover still flows through you like warm light across water. She is not merely a figure of desire but of vitality, a living reminder that joy can be found in every breath and every glance. Your laughter carries the music of freedom, your stillness hums with promise. He does not long to conquer this energy. He longs to dwell within it, to let its glow call forth the parts of him that have slept too long. Your very presence invites him to taste life more fully. The huntress keeps the air sharp with independence. She walks her own path before sunrise, following instincts older than memory. Her solitude is not a wall but a declaration, love will never strip her of selfhood. To him this is both challenge and invitation. He feels the quiet demand to grow, to meet you as an equal, to become a man whose own freedom and purpose can stand beside yours. Your independence pulls him upward because it refuses to settle for less. The queen remains the steady axis of it all. Her calm is an invisible crown, her every word a decree shaped by inner certainty. She never hurries a revelation, she speaks when the moment is ripe, and silence itself becomes an event. He feels the weight of this authority and responds with instinctive reverence. In her presence, love ceases to be a fleeting emotion and becomes a vow to honor what is sovereign. Together these forces no longer alternate, they merge into a single, radiant whole. You are not switching roles, you are the seamless union of passion, freedom, and sovereignty. This integration is what transforms desire into commitment. He senses it in the cadence of your walk, the unguarded confidence of your gaze, the subtle balance of invitation and autonomy. It is not something you perform, it is something you are. Through you he begins to encounter his own anima, the inner feminine that Jung believed every man must embrace to reach true maturity. Your presence stirs that hidden energy, coaxing it toward light. What he calls love is, at its root, the awakening of his own depth. The impulse to stay, to protect, to promise, is less about you as an external prize and more about the wholeness he touches when he stands near you. And yet, as this realization unfolds, you remain untouched by the need for his recognition. Your completeness does not waver whether he confesses devotion or remains in silent awe. You reveal yourself at the pace of your own soul, not his urgency. Your worth, anchored in the harmony of these archetypes, is beyond persuasion or proof. This is the quiet miracle of embodiment, without chasing, without pleading, you become the sanctuary where love matures from impulse into destiny. He is drawn closer not by any vow you seek, but by the undeniable truth that to be near you is to meet the highest reflection of himself. The sixth movement unfolds like a slow sunrise over still water, when darkness lifts but the world remains hushed, holding its breath. By now his nearness is no longer a pursuit of novelty but a response to something inevitable. Jung described such inevitability as the pull of archetypal forces, patterns in the collective psyche that shape human connection. In you, those patterns have become living presence. The lover, the huntress, and the queen no longer shimmer as separate energies, they have fused into a single radiance that speaks to the deepest layer of his being. The lover continues to illuminate the space around you with a glow that is both sensual and serene. Her warmth is steady, like a candle that never flickers, making every moment with you feel heightened yet calm. He does not chase this light as a possession, he leans toward it as one leans toward the fire on a cold night, drawn not by hunger, but by the comfort of something eternal. Your very breath carries a quiet affirmation of life's richness, and that affirmation becomes his own. The huntress adds the crispness of freedom to this gentle flame. She rises with the morning, her heart tuned to private callings, projects, passions, solitary rituals that belong to her alone. You never seek permission for your pursuits, and that independence is its own magnetic field. He senses that your love will never ask him to shrink. Instead it calls him to stand taller, to craft a life that can move beside yours without claiming it. In her stride he finds both challenge and exhilaration, a promise that partnership with you means endless discovery, never confinement. The queen governs it all with quiet command. Her sovereignty is felt in the natural dignity of her movements, in the calm that follows each word she speaks. Respect gathers around her as mist around a mountain, not because she demands it, but because it is the only response that feels true. A man in her presence feels instinctively that love here is not a pastime but a sacred trust. He does not need to be told to honor it, his soul recognizes the requirement. Together these archetypes create an atmosphere that transcends ordinary attraction. You are not acting out roles, you are the integration of vitality, independence, and sovereignty. This integration is what transforms interest into unwavering commitment. He finds himself lingering not because of any promise you make, but because the experience of you reflects a deeper, more complete version of himself. In you he meets the anima, the inner feminine energy that Jung believed every man must embrace to be whole, and that meeting awakens a devotion that feels like destiny. Yet through all of this, you remain untouched by the need for his validation. Your completeness exists whether he speaks vows or remains silent. You reveal yourself only when intuition signals readiness, never in response to urgency. This calm control over your own pace is not a strategy, it is the natural expression of a woman who belongs entirely to herself. Here the dance of attraction becomes a quiet gravitational pull. Commitment is no longer a question he asks, it is the path he simply follows. And you, standing in your own luminous stillness, understand that the true power was never about holding him, but about embodying the wholeness that makes holding unnecessary. The seventh movement gathers like evening light spilling through cathedral windows, soft, golden, inevitable. By now his attraction has deepened into something far beyond desire. What he feels is not a fleeting pull but the quiet certainty of recognition. Jung described this as the convergence of the conscious and the unconscious, where the archetypal feminine becomes a bridge to his own hidden wholeness. In your presence that bridge has taken form, and he crosses it without realizing the depth of the journey. The lover continues to radiate a steady, life-affirming warmth. Your laughter, your silence, the graceful way you move through ordinary tasks, each becomes a subtle invocation of vitality. He is drawn not only to your body but to the heightened awareness you awaken in him. Colors sharpen, sounds deepen, the world feels alive because you inhabit it so fully. Your energy tells him that love is not escape but immersion in life itself. Beside her, the huntress remains a beacon of independence. She reminds him, without a word, that partnership with you will never mean captivity. Your pursuits, creative, intellectual, spiritual, remain fiercely your own. He sees that your joy is self-sourced, that you would remain luminous whether he stayed or left. Far from discouraging him, this truth electrifies him. It promises that if he walks beside you, it will be as an equal, never as an owner. The queen presides with quiet majesty. Her sovereignty is not a performance, it is the natural order of her being. She offers respect and demands it in equal measure, not through force but through the inevitability of her presence. When you speak, the air itself seems to listen. He feels a reverence that borders on devotion, not because you require it, but because your essence makes any lesser response impossible. In the harmony of these archetypes he finds something that awakens his own inner feminine, the anima Jung described as a man's hidden guide to emotional and spiritual maturity. Through you he glimpses that part of himself, sensing that loving you is inseparable from becoming whole. His longing for you is, at its core, a longing for his own integration. That is why the thought of commitment ceases to feel like a choice and begins to feel like destiny. And still, you remain centered in your own autonomy. Your pace of revelation is slow, deliberate, guided by intuition rather than urgency. You do not rush to claim or to be claimed. Your worth is independent of his recognition, and he feels it. That quiet independence is the very force that draws him closer. He understands, consciously or not, that to stand beside you he must cultivate the same inner steadiness. This is the paradox that completes the spell: the more you embody freedom, the more he longs to commit. Not to bind you, but to share in the vastness you carry. He begins to see love not as possession but as pilgrimage, a journey where both partners remain whole even as they walk together. You do not need to name this power. It is present in the cadence of your breath, the weight of your silence, the unwavering gaze that sees without clinging. He feels it and knows, without knowing why, that to remain near you is to remain near the deepest truth of himself. The eighth movement unfolds like the hush of midnight when every star feels close enough to touch, when the world holds its breath in reverence. By now his devotion is no longer stirred by surface beauty or fleeting passion. It is an instinctive recognition, a silent vow born from the archetypal depths that Jung described as the meeting of anima and animus, the eternal feminine and the eternal masculine seeking union within the soul. Your presence has become that meeting ground, a living invitation to his own wholeness. The lover's warmth still shimmers around you like a steady flame. It is not an act of seduction but an effortless radiance, a reminder that joy and sensuality can coexist with serenity. He does not crave you as a conquest, he longs to remain within the field of life that you embody. Your laughter becomes a kind of benediction, your stillness a sanctuary. Through you he remembers that love is less about possession and more about awakening to the richness of being alive. The huntress continues to stride in quiet independence, her focus trained on horizons beyond anyone's grasp. Your freedom has become a fact as unshakable as the tides. He knows now that no promise could diminish it, and that knowledge no longer frightens him, it steadies him. Your autonomy calls forth the same in him, urging him to become a man whose commitment is born not of need but of choice. The more you walk your own path, the more he wishes to walk beside you, not to capture you, but to share in the journey. The queen stands as the still axis of it all, her sovereignty undeniable yet without arrogance. Respect gathers naturally around her presence, and he feels its gravity in every exchange. When you speak, the moment crystallizes; when you fall silent, the silence itself instructs. He understands that intimacy with you is not a fleeting passion but a sacred trust. His loyalty is no longer a response to desire, it is an offering to the dignity you embody. Together these archetypes have merged into a single luminous force. You are no longer a sequence of traits to be admired, you are the seamless union of vitality, freedom, and majesty. This union draws him inward, awakening the feminine within his own psyche. Through you he senses the possibility of integration, the quiet revelation that true love mirrors the journey toward his own self. What he once called obsession now feels like destiny's quiet command. And still, you remain untouched by the need for validation. Your wholeness exists whether he names his devotion or keeps it unspoken. You reveal only what intuition allows, guarding the sacred rhythm of your soul. This calm self-possession is the very heartbeat of your power. He recognizes that the choice to remain with you will never diminish you, and that truth transforms his desire into reverence. Around you, the world begins to shift. Conversations deepen without effort, opportunities align as though drawn by invisible tides. Those who enter your presence sense that they stand in a rare atmosphere, one where masks fall and hearts remember their true shape. They cannot explain it, but they feel it, a living proof that freedom and intimacy are not opposites but companions. Here, commitment ceases to be a question he asks. It becomes a quiet inevitability, a natural unfolding as steady as the turning of the seasons. He does not stay because you demand it, he stays because the very pattern of his soul leads him to your side. The ninth movement settles like the deep silence before dawn, when the night has surrendered but the sun has yet to declare itself. By now his devotion is less a choice and more a natural law. What began as desire has matured into a recognition of the eternal patterns Carl Jung called archetypes, forces that live in every psyche and shape the way love unfolds. You embody these forces so completely that he no longer distinguishes where his longing ends and his awakening begins. The lover remains a quiet flame at the center of your being. Her warmth is steady, never demanding, a constant reminder of life's richness. Your gestures carry the ease of someone who delights in existence itself, and that delight stirs a profound response in him. It is not mere attraction, it is a yearning to live as fully as you do, to share in the vividness you radiate. Beside her, the huntress moves with the independence of a clear sky. Your life is filled with private joys and chosen pursuits, a landscape he admires but can never own. Instead of distance, he feels invitation, the call to rise into his own purpose, to match your freedom with his own. The knowledge that your heart cannot be captured becomes the very reason he longs to stay. What once might have frightened him now steadies him, for he understands that love with you can never be a cage. The queen governs this union with effortless authority. Her presence reshapes the air, commanding respect without uttering a word. When you speak, the moment sharpens, when you pause, the silence holds weight. He senses that devotion here is not a favor but a privilege, a vow that must be lived rather than promised. To stand beside you is to stand inside a realm of dignity, and he feels honored simply to be admitted. These three archetypes no longer appear as separate facets. They are the seamless expression of a single luminous self. In you he sees the reflection of his own hidden feminine, the anima that Jung believed every man must embrace to become whole. Loving you becomes inseparable from meeting himself. Each breath you take, each unhurried glance, invites him deeper into that integration. He does not name it commitment, because commitment feels too small, it is recognition, a gravitational pull toward completion. And still, you remain beyond the need for his pledge. Your worth does not flicker if he stays or if he drifts. You reveal yourself only in rhythm set by intuition, never by fear of loss. Your calm detachment is not distance, it is sovereignty, and it is this very sovereignty that intensifies his devotion. He understands that you are whole, and that to walk beside you he must bring his own wholeness. Around you, the world responds in quiet harmony. Friends confide with unexpected depth, strangers soften their voices, opportunities gather as if summoned by the current of your authenticity. You no longer reach for anything, you simply stand in the center of your own life, and life bends to meet you. Here the dance is almost complete. The archetypes have fused into a singular radiance, and his heart has found its home not in possession but in reverence. What began as fascination has become destiny's calm decree. He does not choose you because he must, he remains because The 10th movement unfolds like the first light of morning cresting over an endless horizon, quiet yet unstoppable. Every archetype within you, the lover's radiance, the huntress's independence, the queen's sovereign calm, has merged into a single luminous presence. Carl Jung described this final harmony as individuation, the moment when shadow and light, desire and detachment, unite into the self. You stand now as that living wholeness, and those who encounter you sense it before thought can interrupt. The lover still glows with the warmth of life itself. Her magnetism is no longer about awakening desire, it is about revealing the beauty of existence. The huntress continues her solitary stride, a reminder that love cannot and should not confine. The queen presides with unshakable grace, her silence carrying the weight of 1,000 words. Together they are no longer traits but truth, a seamless embodiment of vitality, freedom, and majesty. For the man who has walked this path beside you, commitment has ceased to be a decision. It is now a recognition as natural as breathing. Through you he has met his own anima, the hidden feminine that calls him toward integration. What he once named attraction is in fact a deep awakening of his own soul. He stays not from need or conquest but because your presence mirrors his own highest self. And yet, the final revelation belongs entirely to you, his devotion, however steadfast, is not your destination. You are complete whether he lingers or departs. Your value was never measured by his vow. The quiet magnetism you carry does not depend on witness or approval. It is the natural radiance of a woman who has claimed every part of herself. Around you the world adjusts to this truth. Opportunities arrive like rivers finding their course. Conversations deepen, masks fall away, and even silence feels like communion. Love may flourish, or it may fade like a passing season, but neither outcome alters the essence of your being. You are whole before love, within love, and beyond it. This is the culmination of every subtle revelation, every patient silence, every archetypal step you have taken. You no longer seek to inspire commitment, you embody the serenity that makes true devotion possible. Your presence alone teaches the deepest lesson, that real love begins only when both souls stand complete. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.